I don't know whether it's all of mankind or just my partner, but I feel like people would be like, what are you talking about? Of course you need to rest. And I always laugh about the man cave. Like the man cave is just a zone of rest. Has anyone seen anyone in the man cave? It's quite a secretive place in many ways, but it's like, it's just a sitting in being. That's all it is. It's just a sitting in being. And that's how they recharge.
Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Dr. Beck.
And I am Christine Barker, and this is Am I Doing It Wrong? A podcast for doctors by doctors. Dr. Beck is a mindset coach and medical doctor who specialises in liberating driven, professional women from the limitations of perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and people pleasing. She's basically the cheat code for getting out of your own way, showing up authentically, and living a life you're proud of.
And Christine is a medical educator and nephrologist who creates resources for doctors in training that I truly think are an unfair advantage. She makes complex topics super simple and takes the pain and uncertainty out of passing your medical exams. Christine and I connected a few years ago via our online platforms, and over the years we've discussed countless highs, lows, and in-betweens of doctor life. And in doing so, we've experienced firsthand the power of vulnerable conversations to show us where we're getting in our own way and underestimating our capacity.
So we want you to be part of the conversation and experience these same results. Every week on the pod, we'll be bringing you conversations which shine light in dark places, normalise the doctor journey, ease unnecessary suffering, and give you actionable steps to thrive in all facets of your life. So grab a cuppa and get cozy for this week's episode of Am I Doing It Wrong? The podcast for doctors by doctors. Oh, how are you, Beck? Beck and I do a lot of like voice memo things, but to see you and sit down with you, especially in amongst this week, we've both been having weeks, haven't we? But how are you today? How are you going?
Oh, Christine, today I'm so grateful for you because you have been my leveler this week and last week as well, actually, when I've been feeling so tired and I need to constantly be managing my thoughts and venting and kind of veering off my integrity, and then you helping me veer back. So I'm grateful for you, and I'm still tired.
Tell me about it. What has been making you tired? Or that doesn't have to be a reason, but what's been going on?
No, there are good reasons, and that's something actually that you have helped me remind me of, because sometimes I just feel tired and I just get impatient with myself. I'm just like, you were tired yesterday. You should really be done with this tiredness now. And this is kind of a great full circle, isn't it? Because it is similar to what we spoke about in our very first episode on the podcast, which is so fun, except this time we're doing it live. We're getting that live time. You have an opportunity to change what you're doing that you wanted to change last time that you didn't have the insight for. For me, I'm talking about me. So last time on the podcast, we were talking about how, on that first episode of the podcast, we were talking about how when I was working both of my jobs, sometimes when I take these locum contracts and I'm working full-time, well, it's always more than full-time in the hospital, isn't it? And then I'm working with my clients in the mornings and the evenings, and then I'm doing creation work for my business on all the other spare moments that I can get. I get tired. Isn't that surprising? And last time we were talking about how I got to about that 3-week mark. I keep saying last time. On the first episode, we were talking about how I got to about that 3-week mark. And then my contract ended, which was perfect. And I went back off into my life, and I was just able to work on my coaching business and be a full-time coach. And I was frustrated with how I was finding myself getting impatient with how tired I was still 10 days later. And now I'm in real time in week 5 of working my 2 jobs. And the last 10 days for me, I have been tired beyond rejuvenation. I've been sleeping so much, but it's still not enough. I've been doing all the right things in terms of prioritizing rest. So that was a great realization And it was something that I did carry forwards from our conversation on that podcast, that actively resting is actually the most productive thing I can do right now. And now I'm living out that new plan, that new strategy in real time. And it's interesting because the context is that I still have a couple of weeks, like just a week and a half actually, before I have Christmas off and I get to have a break. However, I have my commitments to manage in the meantime. And yeah, I just thought it'd be really great to talk about being in this place of being really tired, yet being committed to your commitments and how to kind of treat yourself in this time.
Do you know what? I loved what you said there. I wrote down, I am tired beyond rejuvenation. Actively resting is the most productive thing I can do right now. I am committed to my commitments. So it's like, I just felt like that was what we were going to talk about today, was just this like high achieving person, hashtag everyone listening, who is tired and equally has stuff to show up for. And then it is a lovely kind of coming home to ourselves moment in terms of how we started the podcast. And I'm the same as you. It's funny, actually, our lives do parallel each other recently, the last few months, right? If I'm having a great week, Beck's having a great week. And Sundays we're just low. We're just low. And this week's a low week for both of us. And I'm having a similar thing where it's a seesaw. It is a seesaw, but what my issue is that I've got it's the last week of my written program, and I have a live lecture or tutorial, I guess, maybe not a lecture, a live tutorial to deliver this Sunday. It's the finish line. It is 6 months of work brought to life, and I am just so there for my ducklings, and it's just so beautiful, and I'm so excited about it. And it's what I need to bring to life this week. And on Monday, I didn't have any slides, and I'm building the slides. And what I did on the weekend was I worked really hard, put in some long hours on the weekend so that I could automate my week, have all my emails kind of roughly set up, my YouTube video, my this and that. I had other things to do, and I cleaned my desk. But in doing that, it was like I was doing long hours to clean my desk to get to this stage. And then I thought, all that stuff that you talk about, the fantasy planning. And I had my week all set up, and I had this block for this and this block for that. Not going to plan. Yesterday, I had all day clinic. I didn't really feel well yesterday. Continue to do clinics. I want to cancel the patients. Then at nighttime, I was just nothing. I couldn't do anything last night. So then I'm like, right, I'll surrender. I won't push it. I won't sit and try and make slides. I will not push it. I will surrender. And I'll be like, I've got tomorrow. And then this morning, I woke up better. Like, having had that rest last night, I woke up better this morning. But then I had to do like a meeting thing for work. And it was in that meeting, there was like a sort of a difficult thing that came up, and it upset my energy, right? So then I was all fired up about something, and then it upset my afternoon, and I couldn't concentrate.
What you were saying, I think, is just so relevant to the trap that I have been falling into, and my next level, like my next learning that I need to take from this, which is you were saying that you surrendered last night to the fatigue, to the lethargy, to the tiredness. You just surrendered. Like, I'm not going to make this mean that anything is wrong, and I'm just going to give my body what it wants, which is to not do anything productive, even though you had things planned, other things that you'd like to be doing that time. And so you rested, you spent the evening resting, you got a great sleep, and then voila, you woke up feeling great the next morning, or better the next morning. So you're like, tick, that worked. And then you went on and had another challenge in the day. And so tell me more about the challenge.
Well, I guess it is a sort of an ongoing thing where I have two modes. So I've got my at-home creative mode, and then I've got like my clinical role, but my clinical role has admin bits as well. And so I was in just like a work meeting, and it just had to fall at this time, and that was it. And so I went into the work meeting, and that sort of upset. I was on a roll with my productivity in the morning, and then just being in that meeting and the sort of things that came up in the meeting, it just changed my energy. It was just a bit of a drainer. And then I couldn't seem to shake off. Once I came out of the meeting, I couldn't shake it off. And so I had to go for a walk, and then I had to, like, you know, just try and get that energy out of me. And then I did manage to get back to my desk in the afternoon, but there was just this feeling of like, I don't have control over things, or I'm very easily tipped. Like I can't easily get back on track. And so this fantasy plan of my calendar, it doesn't include white space for problems at all. And sitting here with you just now, I'm just thinking, oh, like this better come together tomorrow. Like, but then what if something else comes up tomorrow? But yeah, so I think, like, I guess the key thing that I'm trying to say is I've got a lot on this week. So my body wants to rest. My body is like screaming to rest, but I need to fulfill this commitment, and I wholeheartedly want to. And it's almost like my body is doing something from what I want it to do. I can't control, you know, how it's feeling. And I think it might just be that, you know, you are getting towards the finish line, and there is that natural wind down coming up to Christmas, coming up to the end of these deadlines. I've done so much public speaking this year that I love it, but I also, I need it. I just need a wee break from it. I definitely do. I can feel it in me. But it's just that kind of feeling where, you know, you wouldn't change it for the world. You wouldn't change it. You made these decisions. They're great decisions, all the things. But when you're actually in it and living it, things come up in life. Things come up in life, or your body is just not how you would ideally have it when you're trying to achieve this thing. And there's such a surrender in that, and just being able to go with the flow when, well, I don't know if I'm doing it very well. But I guess what I'm saying is just recognizing that it's hard and trying not to judge myself. That was something you said to me yesterday, was just about not judging yourself. And I think that is actually really important, because I think this current version of me, having had the benefit of, I guess, probably just doing this podcast and really thinking about all these things at a more deeper level, current me does sort of have that insight of to not judge and not to beat myself up too much. But I know there was a past version of me that this week that's happening to me would have been 20 times worse because I would have been in my head 20 times more, being like, oh, you should be doing this, you're, you know, there would be a mean girl narrative. Can you relate to that?
I love that you've related this back to fantasy planning, because it's a different level of fantasy planning that almost goes beyond the week plan. When I talk about fantasy planning, I like people to basically think about time blocking out their week and recognizing all the things that take up their time as a part of being a human, like transit, eating, getting yourself dressed so you're socially acceptable to whatever your socially acceptable standard is. The unhook time for your brain, the time that you need to like turn your phone off and on, like turn your brain off and on, all those things that are just necessary. I call them cost of living items. This is the cost of being alive, that you need to spend some time on these things. And I love that from the week perspective. But what you've brought up is, it's not only a problem that we can have when we look at a week and we believe that we have more time than we do. And so we schedule in more items in the week than we do. But you brought up the idea that we can also fantasy plan when we believe that we will have some constant or predictable level of energy. And hopefully you get to have a reasonably constant and predictable level of energy and ability to focus and pay attention for a lot of your life. And that, I think I would say that's the case for me. Like, a lot of the time I've set up my health, and I'm privileged to not have any other medical conditions that kind of, you know, toy with that and make that even harder and more unpredictable. A lot of my life, my energy levels are predictable, but they're also reasonably regularly not as high as most of the time. There are these periods, you know, I would probably say once a month at least, right? I have a period of low energy, and I don't factor that in to my planning, to my expectations for the week. I don't think once a month for a week, I'm going to have less energy. let's just even start at like a woman's hormonal cycle, right? I don't even factor in that once a month I'm going to have less energy and be more drained than the other weeks of the month. And that is a way of fantasy planning that creates all those problems again over the whole span of a week when we make plans as if we're going to have a higher level of energy than we do. And I just think that's so insightful to recognize, to pinpoint the idea that we expect that we will feel the same and have the same resources each week. And that can make us fantasy plan. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I think that's so relatable. And I hope that you guys can recognize if you're doing that too, that you've got this expectation of how much energy and ability to focus you'll have each week, and that it should be the same each week.
Yeah. And it feels like part of your identity, doesn't it? Like I don't recognize myself when all of a sudden, like you say, I'm the same as you. Like this, whatever it is, this happens to me, this physiological situation happens to me. I'm in hormonal winter and no one's more surprised than me. Like I'm like, who, what? Why is this happening? That's not who I am. And then so it's like, I don't know. I think that it happens. Hormonal winter happens. And then for the rest of the month, I try and block out the fact that it happened and reset. And I'm like, well, that's good. I don't have to worry about that ever again, ever in my life, do I? No, that'll never happen again. So now I'll just go back to being who I think I am in my head. And so I think there is that kind of identity problem as well. As I think as high achievers and productive people, we do identify with being productive, or it feels like part of our existence. Like I think I've been doing a bit of work on this recently where I've been trying to figure out, because it doesn't feel sustainable to me in the longer term. I really do want to find this, whatever balance means to me, I want to find it in the next few months. And I think I've been looking into this kind of idea of having a bit of a soft life and maybe still achieving quite a lot while doing less and all that, those sort of ideas. I've been exploring it recently. But I think where I have some problems is I think what happened as a child, as I was sort of like learning how the world worked, was I think I got rewarded or applauded or recognized for things that I did, things that I created, things that I was doing, as opposed to just who I was. And that sounds really deep, but I think there'll be a few people listening who have that same experience. And I mean, I had a beautiful childhood. I was completely loved, but I think I must have got this message that like I was being applauded for something outside of myself that I was putting out into the world, as opposed to just my personality or just being alive. It just wasn't enough for whatever messaging I got. And I think a lot of us as high achievers, we would have that, you know, when you win a little prize at school, or you do well in school, or I don't know, whatever you've done, people have done a lot of cool things. That's when you get recognition. And then that becomes your reward pathway, and I think it stays with you throughout life. And so when I'm just being and I'm not doing anything, I do genuinely feel lost, and I'm trying to actively get better at it. So that's when you said that actively resting was the most productive thing that you could do, I wanted to bottle that up, because I was like, that is so true, and yet I struggle to believe it most days.
Oh, that's so relatable too. I also had, the most wonderful childhood. My parents were faultless as parents can be, right? And I also have that same association with being productive and that being my value. And it's only because my parents would praise me, or I'd get attention at school or wherever, when I did things in some kind of extraordinary way, or when I was excellent in some way. And I think I just did the same thing, and sort of, it makes sense to associate that with love and belonging and your worth, ultimately. I think that would be so relatable to so many people who are high achievers, because we've clearly developed some kind of outrageous drive, some very compelling drive to continue to achieve and achieve and achieve, and sometimes even achieve things despite them not being what we want. But when you talk about, it's funny that we have to talk about it as actively resting, isn't it? Like it's something that it's not our default. It's something that we have to do, because our default is to move towards, as you say, doing productive things. That's actually the easy thing for us to do. It's actually the natural thing for us to do things and create results. That's what we're so used to. And the active rest is not something for me. This is what I'm realizing, after we talked about the need to rest, and that the need to rest can be prolonged in that first podcast that we did. And now being in the situation right now where I'm recognizing I need to rest, I have noticed that it's not one decision to rest and done. I make the decision to rest, and then all those thoughts come up again about, as you're saying, my need to, and you've gone many levels deeper, but let's just shortcut there. The thoughts come up about my need to do something because I'm not valuable, or I'm not adding any value to the world when I'm not doing something. Me resting, especially me resting when I'm not even, feeling wonderful and really enjoying the rest because I'm just tired. That just feels like my mind says it's a waste of time. And so it's great. And I've had a lot of success, actually, especially in that first week. I had so much success with surrendering. And I was really able to bring those thoughts to the front of my mind about how resting, and really believe that resting is exactly what I wanted to be doing at that time. Really understanding that trying to do anything else would just take so much more away from me, that it would only take me further away from where I wanted to be. And this week, and also last week, but I'm recognizing that because that's not my default, because it's a new pathway I'm building, I still have those thoughts of, you've done enough rest now. You should feel better now. Like, you tick the box. Now you should be rewarded with feeling better. And I feel like I could hear that when you were saying, you had that beautiful night last night where you surrendered. You did the thing, like you actively surrendered and rested, and you allowed yourself to rest. And then you woke up feeling better the next morning, and you were like, great, I have solved the problem. And then you went ahead and you realized that, and I'm putting words into your mouth here because I don't think you necessarily said this, but what I thought I heard was you had a challenging event and you were more reactive to that event than what you'd usually recognize in yourself. And I wonder if that was because, although you felt better in the morning after resting, you weren't cured of the tiredness. You're still a bit below baseline, but our expectation can be in our head that, I rested for the whole evening and I slept the whole night, so I'm going to feel better by now. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm on day 10 now of feeling like I've stripped back all to the minimum that I need to do, which is actually still a lot, but I've bargained with myself. I've stripped it all back, and I'm really getting to that point now of feeling entitled to feeling good again. And those expectations of, I have rested. I've done enough rest. I should feel better now, anytime now. And getting to that next level, I'm so glad I have this insight here, because I know what I need to do. I've met this new barrier, and I need to show myself and remind myself again of what's true, which is you're not entitled to feel better. If you're not feeling better now, it's because you still haven't rested enough. There's still more to do. You can't just project your expectations onto your body and your nervous system about when is enough. So for me, it's been a very a self-awareness stretch of me constantly catching myself in that entitlement to feel better each time, and then redirecting myself back to it being okay that I'm tired and surrendering again.
Yeah, but I also think it's useful to recognize that there's nothing normal about the modern life that we're living and the jobs we do. I don't think humans were built to do that. Like, I don't think evolution was like, do you know what I think we should build humans for is a 60-hour work week. I don't think like we're supposed to be doing that. Or if we are supposed to be doing something, we're supposed to be outside, I don't know, walking around, like doing something productive, maybe like to keep our family alive. But I don't think we were necessarily this modern reality we're in and we're sitting at desks and we're doing that. I just don't think it's exhausting in a different way as well. You were saying that you felt entitled to feel good, but equally, I think there is something in that, like your body's screaming at you, being like, you know, listen, you're doing this gig for another few months, feel better until you stop doing what you're actually doing. And even though you're doing your bare minimum, you're still doing a lot. You're still doing an awful lot. I guess just appreciating that. And as you were talking, I was thinking about how funny it was. Like, we're having this conversation, right? But I know if my partner, or I don't know whether it's all of mankind or just my partner, but I feel like people would be like, what are you talking about? Of course you need to rest. Like, and I always laugh about the man cave. Like, the man cave is just a zone of rest. Has anyone seen anyone in the man cave? It's quite a secretive place in many ways, but it's like, it's just a sitting in being. That's all it is. It's just a sitting in being. And that's how they recharge. There is such a thing as productive rest too. So I don't know whether you do colouring in or building Legos or arts and crafts or something. I guess that's probably productive rest as well, isn't it? But what we're sort of talking about is when your body is not, it's not up for joy right now. it's like nope, stop. Is that what you're talking about as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's like, I know there are times where, you know, movement, going to the gym often for me is an energy boost. Yeah, doing something creative. I think I hear people with a lot of guilt about being tired or thinking that something's wrong with them when they're tired for, quote, just doing a normal work week, right? And especially, I mean, this goes to everyone, but our work as a doctor in the hospital, I think it can be particularly exhausting. I think we're using multiple different parts of our brains all the time. We're doing convergent thinking, we're doing divergent thinking, we're being empathetic, we're being highly cognitive and intellectual and detail focused, and we're always also going big picture. We are managing our teams and having all these close interpersonal relationships and relationships with our patients as well. We're taking risks multiple times throughout the day. It doesn't matter what clinical level you are. A lot of our job is risk taking, whether, you know, you're a new intern or a med student who's doing something for the first time, or having to call somebody and ask a question that makes you feel insecure or challenged, or whether you are a seasoned professor who has expectations for how some procedure is going to go, or a decision that they make for a patient being a good decision. We're taking risks a lot of the time. And I don't know about you, but when I think about all the things that we're doing and all the mode switching that we do, I think clinical work can be extremely demanding. And the 40-hour work week, I love to remind people that the 40-hour work week was designed for, you know, a breadwinner with a stay-at-home spouse who also managed all of the other roles and responsibilities and challenges of life outside of paid work. And I also would dare to say that life was a lot simpler, less demanding back in the day. And I know it was challenging in different ways, but I just want to think about how much paperwork it takes to do my taxes these days, or to apply for a loan, or even just to order a certain medication for a patient. I don't think all of that paperwork and clicking was around back then too. So I think it's very unfair for us to compare ourselves to the 40-hour work week that somehow has been, or somehow is allowed to constantly be normalized, and set this baseline for the minimum amount of work that we should be able to handle without feeling tired.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just when you said as well about this sort of life being maybe simple, I mean, I'm thinking back in the 1950s or wherever you went to there, but I think there is merit in that, and thinking about things that can take your energy, because I find that even things like social media, I have to be really, really conscious with that, or that can be another thing that can drain my energy as well. And that, or people can get to you, people can, message you, phone you. Like that never used to happen. I used to go home and just like, but I don't know what people did, but they just went home and they had a wholesome evening, I think. Or maybe they went to the pub. I don't know. But I feel like there is a modern life has things that probably aren't good for our nervous system on a constant little basis throughout the day. Like I don't think our devices are necessarily, I'm probably going a bit off track with this, but I guess all I'm saying is like just having a wee think about what can affect you. I think I'm a really empathic person, and especially in weeks like this where I'm already, my thresholds are different. I think I'm not able to like center myself quite as well. I think I do pick up on people's energy more when I'm in this mode. Do you relate to that? Because I know you're an empath as well. Like, do you feel like all of your barriers are down, or?
No, I'm with you. I'm completely with you. When I'm really tired, there are all these other challenges. Yeah, because it feels harder for me to regulate my emotions. I feel more affected by things that happen. And yeah, I mean, I think emotional regulation is something, it's a higher cognitive function, and it demands a great deal of energy to execute on. And I guess this comes back to, our defaults, what we default to. When we have less energy, we will tend to just do what we default to. And for me, I will default to being empathetic with less boundaries, or, I will default to believing that how other people feel is my responsibility. They're things that I can actively manage really well when I'm not exhausted. And when I am exhausted, there are things that are more of a challenge to manage. So yeah, I'm definitely with you on that one. Yeah, I can't emphasize enough how, if you think about all of the things that we actively do each day away from our default, if we're people who default to what's familiar to us, just as humans, we default to what is familiar to us because it's easy, it's what's efficient for our brain. And we also default to moving towards pleasure away from pain and doing things with ease. That's just the human organism. That's how we have adapted and changed to survive. And your defaults, they don't always serve you in the bigger picture. They're great general rules to keep us alive, but they don't always serve us. And so a lot of our days showing up as our best self means actively navigating ourselves in a different direction from our default. And when you're really tired, you don't have as much energy to do that active navigation. So there's even more reason to be patient and kind with yourself when you're tired.
Oh my God, I love that. And I feel like you gave me an aha moment when you said that thing about the default mode, because I hadn't recognized it within myself that there is almost like a regression. Like I've been, you work on things, you think you're getting better at things. Like even just the empath thing, I've been trying to be more compassionate than empathetic to sort of get away from that, because it's not necessarily a helpful thing a lot of the time, whereas compassion really is. But you're right, default mode, when you just, yeah, all that work that you would normally put into place, it just, for some reason, yeah, it just dissolves.
Yeah.
It's just really insightful. I didn't have that insight into myself until you said that, and I resonate with that a lot. Default mode.
I think we
What
can
a disaster
also
mode.
default disaster mode. I think we can also just, it's kind of an opportunity to just be so, amazed with yourself. Like if this is your default, if this is what you tend to do when you're exhausted, just to recognize, how impressive it is that you can actively direct yourself. You actively direct your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, and therefore your behaviors in your day-to-day life. And it does take energy. And thank goodness that we have developed the skill to do that. And I think look, that's probably something that I'd like to, because I'm always looking for ways to be compassionate with myself. When my default here is to be frustrated that I'm tired and can't be productive, as you say. And even just chatting with you now and recognizing, oh, that's actually something I'm really happy with myself about, that I've built this skillfulness and I spend this energy usually when I have it to direct myself instead of letting myself default. I think that's something to celebrate. And without the bad days, you can't see what a good day really looks like.
That's true. And I think learning about trust as well, we touched on this, I think, last week in a different way, but like getting through these times where things aren't perfect and all the ducks aren't in a row, and still being able to do that kind of ebb and flow with yourself, be productive, whatever you need to do, whatever life throws your way, and actually realize that in those seasons, you can still be successful, whatever that means to you. You can still show up where you need to be, do the thing that you need to do, and pull it off, basically. And that is a great way to develop self-trust as well, that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be your A game. It just has to be good enough sometimes. But that good enough is probably, most people listening's baseline is probably still a really great job. And so I think just recognizing that even though things aren't perfect, you're still capable, even on a B+ day, and just having your own back that way and acknowledging what you are able to do still, and not being so perfectionistic and shooting all over yourself. Because I think, like in both of our examples, you're still going to work, you're still doing your 2 jobs. I'm still working on what I'm supposed to be working on. Like we're not letting it flatline us. We're just acknowledging that, it's not ideal. We would have ideally had a different week or weeks, but also we're still succeeding, whatever that means for us.
Yeah, even though it wasn't our fantasy plan for the week, it doesn't mean that it's not successful. It's still successful. And what you said about self-trust, I'll also, with that, recognizing this is, it's just an ebb and flow. Like it's just a cycle of your energy levels being down right now. And if you zoom right out, they're going to come back up again. And all you need to do is be patient in this time and allocate your resources well. And those kinds of thoughts give me so much relief of the impatience and the frustration that I default to. Those thoughts, recognizing that this is just a cycle. I'm not down and out. I'm not down forever, which it may sound obvious if you're not in that down phase right now. But for me, it's very easy for my mind to go there like, oh, I'll never feel better. How long is this going to last? Da, da, da. Those thoughts definitely appear in my mind.
Yeah, but do you know what? I'm actually just thinking how funny it is, right? This has never happened to us before, right? Our internet, well, maybe it did happen once. I dropped out once when I was in a hotel somewhere, but like this recording of this podcast, the amount of things that have gone wrong are, I think I've lost count. We must be in like the double digits by now, right? Like it's gone wrong whilst trying to record this podcast. We're just hanging on. We've turned the videos off. We're hanging on by a thread here, but we're finishing the podcast, right? And we didn't have to discuss that, negotiate that. We just but what I'm saying is that I feel like this whole podcast experience has been an interpretive dance of the message that we are trying to communicate, which is, it's going to be fine. Just keep going. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Let it be imperfect.
Life's life.
Yeah. Next week, the internet will be back. That is so beautiful. Let's end it there so we can both go and rest so that we can create and do what we need to do to get through this week. I am so grateful for you helping me just remind me, like put this tiredness into context for me. And I hope that this is what this podcast can be for you guys as well. If you're feeling exhausted right now, or for the next time that you're feeling really exhausted beyond, the usual rejuvenation activities, and your body's just saying, whoa, 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 slow down, be still. I hope that this podcast can be a reminder that this is normal. You're not supposed to be a continuous productive output machine. You don't get to be at your high, wonderful, or even baseline energy all the time. That's not how humans work. And also that that this time will end. And when you add judgment, when you add those difficult emotions like frustration and impatience or disappointment or dread on top of this already challenging experience, you're only taking more energy away from you. So as much as I know you don't want to reach for being self-compassionate right now because you're impatient with yourself, you're frustrated, we just want to plant the seed that surrendering and being self-compassionate might just be the most productive thing that you can do. And I know you high achiever, that's what you really want. That's what motivates you.
Oh, thank you so much, Beck. Thank you to everyone who's listening. I hope you guys have a great week.
Bye.
I've been waiting all my life for something. I've been down the darkest roads and up in